I am Zack. I'm the lead at JPMorgan Chase for developing our career navigation solution across our global campus recruiting process. So the point of today's conversation, what I'm going to talk about, is how we are using people analytics to guide candidates to their best fit roles across JPMorgan Chase, and how we think this is changing the future of work. But before I dive into the solution, I want to do some time travel with all of you. I'd like to go back in time in our minds, think about a time when you remember this experience. You've been here before, right? And if you're under 20, maybe not. Maybe this is new to you. Blockbuster was an actual place you had to go to get videos. I know it's crazy, but we used to do that. And the reason I bring up this experience is to frame our mindset around what we might be dealing with for campus recruiting. So think about, you walk into a Blockbuster video. You were looking at all the videos. It's a little overwhelming, hundreds of videos there. So you could make your selection one of two ways. Maybe there was a big blockbuster that you knew about or that you've heard from somebody. So you pursue that, you go find that option. Or you go the other route where you manually go around, you grab the videos, you physically turn them around, you read the blurb on the back, and you try to make a decision on whether or not this movie is going to be good for you based on that small piece, that little piece of information. Not an ideal experience, especially not an ideal experience when you paid for your movie, you got home, you got your popcorn ready, you're settled in on the couch, you start the movie, and 30 minutes in you realize this was not a good choice. I regret this. This is not a movie for me. Not a great experience at Blockbuster, that's why we know they're gone. They're not around anymore. But again, thinking about how that compares to, if we're back in our minds, back in time, thinking about college and how we launched our careers. There's a lot of opportunities. We may have had a general idea of what we wanted to do, but realized there's a lot of things out there that we have to choose from. So either we went the one route of, I knew about this big name company or this big name field, so I'm going to go into that. Or I'm going to try to do detailed research and read job description after job description after job description and try to make decisions based on that limited information and try to figure out what's going to be the best fit for me. Again, not a great experience, especially if you got a job, got an apartment, you moved to a new city, you started the new job, and 6 months in, this is not a good choice. This is not a good job for me. So we intuitively know that the typical experience to launch your career is not optimized. And the data backs this up. So when you look at today's career search for graduates, they do just what we did. Just apply to things. I'm not really sure if it's right or not, so I just apply, and high percentage of them get it wrong. We also take the approach, if I'm just going to apply to everything, and that's what drives up the volume of applications, and really doesn't drive the quality up. And it makes it very hard for companies to then have to do that analysis and weed that pool down to that high fit small population. We know this challenge is particularly difficult for underrepresented populations, where they report feeling less prepared and less aware of options at a much higher rate than their white male counterparts. And making things even worse is we hear things like, you don't even have to have a job in your major. Most people don't. You can do anything, which is a great sentiment, but that doesn't help me navigate to find what's a good fit for me. So that's the problem we're facing. That's the problem that we wanted to solve for at JPMorgan Chase. How do we come up with a solution to that? And so we looked at other places, other companies that have solved similar issues. So we already did the Blockbuster. So Blockbuster, we know it went away. Netflix is here. One of the reasons Netflix is thriving, this page, best fits for you. They take data, they understand you, and recommend things for you. If you're a college student, again, you're not aware even of Blockbuster, because this is what you're used to. This is what you grew up. This is what you expect. You expect companies to have data on you and to recommend things that relate to you, because that's also how you get your music. It's also how you get your products. They intuitively know my data plus AI technology equals predictive recommendation engine. So we started asking, well, why can't we do that? Why can't we use data and AI technology to revolutionize the way we help people navigate their careers? Because we want to create our own version of the recommendation search engine, or the recommendation engine, using people analytics. To get there, we needed some help. We partnered with Pymetrics. What is Pymetrics? They're a technology company that takes gamified assessments to understand the core traits of people and match them up with the core elements of a job or a model. I'll talk about that in a second, and see where there's the overlap. At the highest level, it's very similar to Netflix. Break down the core elements of a movie, break down the core elements of you and what you watch, and see where there's the overlap. Why did we choose Pymetrics? So there's a lot of reasons we chose Pymetrics, but 3 things that stand out that are unique and innovative about Pymetrics. The first being the quality of their data set. So these games, this gamification, they didn't just make these up. They're founded in neuroscience. It has a long history, been tested and validated globally. Second thing, they customize their algorithms for us. They're not going to just give us something out of the box. They're going to take our information for our employees, for our roles, and create algorithms specifically for us. The third thing is debiasing. I think we can all agree the importance of making sure that algorithms are not biased, and we believe they have a best-in-class process for debiasing their algorithms. So all combined, we decided to go with Pymetrics. And so at a high level, how does it work? There's 12 games. They're fun games. They're short games. They take about 25 minutes to complete. And the benefit is you get immediate personalized feedback. And then those results can be used across a whole number of things, a whole number of roles. So if you apply to multiple things, you want to get feedback on all of those and assessment to all of those, you don't have to play the games over and over again. I'm a little crazy. I play the games over and over again because I need to, but the candidates don't have to. They can just do it once and apply that data across multiple ways. But before we can actually use this data, before we can have candidates, students play these games, we have to build a model. We have to have something for them to compare it against. So this is the process we went through with Pymetrics. So again, the custom process, custom algorithm. We had our existing employees play the games and then give that information to Pymetrics. And then we told Pymetrics who our top performers were so that Pymetrics could then look at that data and say what's unique, what's distinct in the patterns and the traits of those people that make them stand out and be those high performers to create the algorithm. And then we took that algorithm, tested it, made sure there was no bias before we started using it. And how many models did we want to build? We thought, let's just build them for everything. We have a lot of options at JPMorgan Chase, many different roles, many different lines of business. And despite what most college students think, we're more than just investment banking. And so we wanted to help people find their fit across all these roles. So we made models across all of them. Because we want to really help people find the right fit for them. And we're going to do this in 2 ways. We wanted to do it before they apply, so they have an opportunity to get that guidance, that insight, before they submit an application. We also wanted to have it as after the application, because maybe they didn't take advantage of this before, and they want to get. We want to make sure they have that opportunity to take advantage of that guidance and find the right fit for them after they apply. So we did it. We actually just launched last month in August. We created our recommendation engine, and this is a screenshot of our website. So we've now got a prominent place on the career site for JPMorgan Chase. It's called the Program Navigator. We set it up so that there's links to it across all of our sites. And there's 2 key elements to this. One, we explain to students, potential candidates, how beneficial that this can be for them. So yes, we want this to help them. We also make it clear that we're trying to help ourselves, that this is data we're going to use. And so it's important that they take this very seriously. These are not quick, just answer a couple questions up front and get a recommendation. This is in-depth. You're going to take a in-depth analysis, in-depth assessment to get these recommendations. But also, while we wanted to help you choose, if you choose to then apply, we're going to use that information. We're going to use that data as part of our assessment, so we make it very clear that they need to take this seriously. So what does that process look like? So here's a preview of the student pre-application experience. Okay, so they go on that landing page, they see our website, they see that they can take advantage of this, great. So now what do? We first have them create an account with JPMorgan Chase in our applicant tracking system so that we have that information and we can track the data across the roles that they then would later apply to. But then we send them over to Pymetrics, play the Pymetrics games, again, 12 games, 25 or so minutes, and then they immediately get recommendations where they show the roles where there'd be a fit across campus recruiting. I think this is really exciting. Just this point right here, I want to stop for a second. Realize like so much of data analytics, so much of people analytics is on our side. It's for the company's side. It's for our benefit. We're taking this strength, this power, and putting it out there up front so that candidates get to see it and get to take advantage of that. And we really hope it's then going to benefit us because then they'll continue on and apply to the jobs. So we're really hoping it's mutually beneficial. And we believe it will be. So the process post-application. So maybe you didn't take advantage of the pre-application process and you went ahead and just applied. That's fine. Part of our process is we require Pymetrics to be completed as part of our application process. So unless you've already completed the games, then you can just resubmit them. But you go through, you complete your Pymetrics games. We have that information about you. That's part of our assessment process. That and other things we use to assess candidates. But the reality is we can't hire all of our candidates. So when someone is determined not to be a fit, we redirect them back to the Pymetrics, what we call the marketplace, where they're redirected to other high-fit roles. So they're first shown high-fit roles at the firm, because we want to take them and match them to where they would be a best fit for us. But we believe that they should be able to see their best fit regardless of whether it's at JPMorgan Chase. So we then have tapped into the marketplace that Pymetrics has, where they can look at other fit roles that other clients that Pymetrics has. So in summary, what is the value of career navigation? Well, for students, it takes this very intimidating process, this very intimidating, overwhelming list of career options. If you were to go on our website right now, you would just see, I think we have hundreds of jobs posted for campus. This makes it a lot easier. It narrows it down 3 to 5-ish programs recommended to you. And it takes the assessment process. I mean, just the word assessment, if you would have heard that in college, I mean, if you hear it now, that's intimidating. That's scary. You start thinking, uh-oh, I'm going to get weeded out. We're changing that. We're changing it to feel like guidance, to feel like it's something that's going to help you, something that's going to be fun, something that you can easily do. So it feels more like we're here to help them instead of try to weed them out. It also benefits us. We believe that this will encourage a wider set of applications across our roles. Again, a lot of people come to our site thinking, I'm going to apply to investment banking. Well, we hope they also will get to see that they're a fit for other programs and they can apply to those too. Now, there's no limitation. We're not saying you have to apply to these recommended roles, but we encourage you to do that. But by doing that, because we also have tested the algorithms multiple times and made sure there's no bias, people are going to be recommended roles regardless of their gender or ethnicity. And maybe it's going to raise to the surface roles and programs they wouldn't have thought of, or maybe stereotypically it's not fit for them, historically, but now they're going to be recommended. So hopefully this helps us achieve our diversity goals too. How are we measuring success? So we are new. We launched last month, so we're very early in the process of this. But what questions we're trying to answer that'll determine if this was successful? First is the candidate experience. That's the first thing we're checking. Is this easy to use? Are we getting positive feedback? Do they like it? Do they see it as valuable? And then I guess going down, ultimately, does this lead to quality hires? If we're saying you're a high fit and you apply there and you become high fit, that's the ultimate, is that we get to those quality hires by routing people this way, and we can increase retention long term. As I mentioned earlier, hopefully this has a positive impact on our diversity goals and achieving what we're looking for to get equal access across gender, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. And then efficiency. Hopefully by routing people where they're high fit, we can reduce volume, increase conversion rates, and as a business, have more efficiency. So again, we just launched, but early data is very encouraging, especially around the candidate experience. We're very happy with what we're seeing. And I don't know if you just came from the other JPMorgan Chase event or talk with Ian O'Keefe. He's our global head of workforce analytics. We are working very closely with his team to structure our engagement in this new program, Navigator, to make sure we're measuring it in a way that answers these questions. So in the future, we'll have more detailed analysis and insights to share about this. I've mentioned a lot of reasons we are doing this. But at the core, our philosophy, what gets us excited, what makes the team put in the extra hours, the nights, the weekends, is when we start thinking about how this impacts the future of work. And we start asking the what if questions and dreaming about what could be because of this. So what if we changed the narrative and students now felt informed about their best fit careers? What if they stayed at their first job for a long time because it was a good fit, instead of what we know now is they stay a year or two and move on to the next thing? And what if the majority of people succeeded at work despite their background? That's a future we want to create. That's a future we're working very hard to create. And we are very confident that the program Navigator is a first step, a great first step in getting us in that direction. So with that, I will open up questions and also have Jessica from the Pymetrics team to help with any detailed questions that I get about specifically Pymetrics.
There are a couple components to that. One is the actual type of data that we're collecting is really, for the most part, pretty unbiased to start. So the traits that we're measuring are not things that are don't skew towards things that are known to have bias. So for example, numerical and logical reasoning tests, or the SATs, are known to have bias because certain people from different socioeconomic backgrounds or gender and ethnicity are known to perform better on them because of tutoring and other things in their social sort of construct. In contrast to that, the things that we're measuring are things like your attention or impulsivity, your memory or your risk preference, how you learn, how you process information. These aren't things that are sort of learned over time. They're more inherent traits that don't skew towards a different gender or ethnicity. In addition to that, we're not asking people to self-report, which is where a lot of bias is introduced as well. If you were to ask me versus Zack versus other people to report on themselves, we know from research that women don't apply to jobs where they don't fit most of the criteria, where men do. So there are those self-report pieces that factor into ultimate bias. So some of it starts from the actual quality of the data. However, in addition to that, and to your point around training off of maybe a more homogeneous set, when we build a model, we test it for bias at that point. And what we do is we have a broader population of people who've gone through Pymetrics where we know their gender and ethnicity. And so we have this model of what is investment banking at JPMorgan, and we test that against all of these other people in our database where we know gender, ethnicity. And we essentially use the EEOC guidelines for the 4/5 rule for basically proportional recommendations of different genders and ethnicities as our sort of guiding framework for how we're testing if there's bias. If we see any, we will actually go back and look at the trait that's leading to that bias and de-weight it in the model, and then test that again and do that sort of iteratively until we end up with a model that passes that 4/5 rule, so that different demographics, the highest pass group is not more than 80% of the lowest.
And I think an important part just to add to that is they're continuing to test the predictive validity, how well it predicts. So it's not like if we remove a trait or pull out a trait, all of a sudden it's less predictive. Actually, in many cases, it becomes more predictive.
There is. I think that's a broader conversation of performance ratings. But I think a lot of it is, one, there's sort of multi-dimensional performance ratings that, and I don't want to speak for JPMorgan, but there's multiple dimensions of how performance is evaluated. So it's not like a singular variable that's used to evaluate performance. In addition to that, I would argue that there's more clarity around people who are not doing a job well versus a difference between people who are really exceeding and those who are doing the job sufficiently. That's where I think the fundamental, like a lot of the bias is between somebody who, they do the job well, or this is a rock star. I think that there's actually more clarity when it comes to this person is really underperforming in the role. And that's where we try to focus, is on this is the group of people who are doing the job well. That might include both the people who are the top performers, quote unquote, and good performers, because I would argue that that's where a lot of the subjectivity around performance ratings comes in when you don't have quantifiable measures.
And that was an in-depth process we went through with legal, compliance, workforce analytics, and everything to come up with that structure and our overall performance development team. So there was a lot of work we did on our side to make sure that we were telling them the right people to use.
Yeah, and I would say, and we were talking about this before the presentation, that we try to embrace the transparency in ensuring that there's no bias. We're not, saying, oh, we build these models and maybe there's bias, maybe there's not. We actually want to create a space where we actually are analyzing them and auditing them and adjusting them. So happy to share more about that offline as well.
I'll say a little bit about us, but you can talk generalities. But it's not a short process, so it takes time, as you can see, to get the employees to play the games. There's a whole big change management effort around communicating that expectation and getting them to complete it. And then there's the process of defining who are the high performers that we want to use. And then there's getting the information over to Pymetrics so that they can build the models. And each model, takes a month plus just for one to finalize it. And then we have to go through and test it and evolve it. So it's not a fast process, but it was a very good process, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, I would say it probably took us about 8 months to implement.
From beginning to end, yeah.
Yeah, like all in, and we have a team of a lot of different people who support in that process. So while it's not fast, I would say it is good, and we offer a lot of support in that. And we are constantly sort of speeding up the cycle times for building the models, but we do want to be thorough in testing them as well.
Yeah, I have 2 questions actually. So my company, we're starting to use a little bit more gamification in some of the strategies that we work on. So I'm just curious, are these customized based on the company, like the actual games in the model? And then my second question is, I know you guys are using it for students. How does it apply to maybe people that are looking into their maybe second or third career? Because I feel where I work, primarily most of our students are the same 1 or 2 positions we're hiring for, but we do get a lot of hires that are on their second or third job, but still trying to find what's the best fit for them. So how does it work with people maybe a few years out of school?
Sure. Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, please.
So the games, we have a core set of 12 games that are the same regardless of the role or the company. And part of why we do that is because we're also trying to create a common application and an easy process for an individual that's job searching, so that somebody doesn't have to go through different sets of things everywhere that they apply. We're really trying to create like a talent passport that allows you to actually have less work in applying for a job. We do offer some sort of add-on modules, so we do have ones that are more quantitative focused, where you could add those if it was a role that was more of an analytics or a quant or an engineering type of role. So there is some customization, but the bulk of the customization comes into the model building process. So all of the different roles for JPMorgan look different because we've customized the back end. To your second question, I think people always want to know what else they could do. It doesn't end after you get a job. So it definitely can be effective with more experienced populations. It's really just about where it's implemented and how it's communicated. Yeah.
Do you guys use any skills, competency assessment tools, and how does that relate with these games?
Yeah. So I'll just say high level, we make sure there's complementary tools based on the function. So if you're a software engineer, coding assessments, right? So it's kind of an obvious one. So yes, we do complement the process, our assessment process, with skill-based assessments. But I know you're doing some work on that too.
Yeah, we offer things like video interviewing, which could get at more of the skills or maybe knowledge that you might want to assess as part of that process as well. We do also, if somebody has competencies, we might look at a rational mapping of how do your competencies map with the traits that we measure, so that there feels like there's a relation between what are the company competencies versus what we're measuring.
I would just also mention the job analysis stuff.
Yes. We also go through a job analysis process where we are looking at measuring the knowledge, skills, and abilities and match those to the traits so that we have sort of a holistic picture of how do the traits in a role actually help support those skills and abilities that you need for the role as well.
Yeah, and we shouldn't understate how important those are. Those were really valuable assessments, I guess, to have the job analysis questionnaire. While it didn't directly inform the model, it's great to have that in tandem with the model.
So you know that these skills are associated with these traits.
Yeah,
Exactly,
and where there's overlap,
yeah.
because it can help inform future decisions and discussions about what should we be doing in the assessment process. Like, what does Pymetrics capture versus where's maybe there a gap?
So for example, the job analysis might say that influencing people is an important skill in this job, and something that we measure at the trait level is your emotional sensitivity or your altruism and things that are more of the building blocks that might make you good at influencing somebody.